Alright, in this series I'm going to be putting together a bunch of different days here on building a little lean-to style storage building here for the tractors and the mowers and all the lawn equipment, etc. So this is my area here that I'm going to be working in. Here's my existing structure. This is a cook shed. This is a 10 by 16 cook shed. And what I want to do is add on to the side of it. So I'm just giving you a good lay of the land here. Jax is going to be our helper for the project. There's Jax. Good boy. Alright, as far as layout goes, I'm going to go out 8 feet with 8-foot 2x6s. A 2x6 can span up to 9 feet on its own. So instead of going with a 2x10, I'd have to double my material costs. All I'm storing in here is a couple of mowers. So what I'm doing is come out 8 feet. I'm going to attach a ledger board to the base of this cook portable building, and I'm going to use that as a joist hanger ledger. For the attachment of the ledger to the existing building, I'm running with these GRK 5/16 by 4 inch fasteners made for treated wood. Just give you an idea of the size. They're pretty girthy, and the best part I like about these is that they run a T30 star drive, so they're not going to sit there and skip and jump on you. So this would be the next best thing, shy of a nice 4-inch lag. Okay, here's the lower ledger attached. This is a 2x6 leveled, and that's attached with those 4-inch lags with the T30. So now what I've developed is a nice ledger for the rest of the flooring system to attach to. Alright, so what I got here is just a little hole that I have dug at 1'6", and this is going to be the first spot one of my 6x6 posts go into. And this is just basically going to support the other corner of the building. I used a joist hanger and a 2x6 just to get a rough idea of my location. I love to use the materials to sort of lay out where things are going to go. So this post will ride about right in there, and then you'll have your 6x6 there. So I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, here's a shot of the first support post put in. I got 4 lags on the side of it, and just to give you an idea, that's how level we are. Perfectly level all the way across the span. We got a joist hanger on that side, hanging on to the ledger board, and then we have the post set in here. Now what I'll do is, now that I have everything kind of initially laid out, this is the most important piece. I'm going to put a bag of concrete in here and let that cure, and then I can continue with the rest of the construction, because now I have 2 stable points of level. So that's the initial layout there. Hey, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I measured 8 feet, which is exactly half of this total 16-foot long lean-to, and I marked it with my Sharpie, and I label everything. So I labeled that 8 feet, and I set a joist hanger Centerline. Now this is going to be the center joist, and at this point we'll set another 6x6. Okay, come in here and attach this corner, and I'll show you what we're attaching to here. Okay, here's our first half of our initial edge base framing. Let me show you what I did here. Since I'm only one person out here, it helps to use these little pieces down here as helpers to get everything nice and aligned and acts as a rest. So this is another hole dug at 2 feet with that 6x6 in there, and that's on the 8-foot center line right there. And if I measure from the point, the edge point of my final edge board over to here. That's 8 feet. So that'll give me perfectly enough attachment area for my 8-foot ledger board out here on the end. So this is the overall edge framing. Now what I'll do is I'll leave this rough. Everything is, as I always like it, dead level all the way across. And as long as you don't go around and bump into these boards too much, everything will stay relatively square. So I'll get my final corner post set out here, finish up my last 2 edge framing boards, and I'll go in and concrete everything in. But this is what I wanted to show you how to do it. But at the end you'll have a nice corner that looks like that with concrete. That thing's going nowhere. It's very strong. You can put a lot of weight on this stuff. You could even go more weight if you notched out that 6x6 and let that that 2x6 rest on the 6x6. But since there's not going to be a lot of weight in this building, I'm perfectly happy with the strength of those 8 lags at the corner. Okay, here we are at the center support. Nice big area of concrete here. You'll notice my hole's a little bit bigger here in the center, and that's because I want a wider foot of concrete sitting in here. Makes for a more stable area. And then I wet it down. Alright, I thought this was a good spot here in the project to show you what's going on. These are 2x6 by 8 foot long, set at 16 inches on center, using a typical USP 2x4, 2x6 joist hanger, which are these guys here. Pretty straightforward. This attaches to the ledger, and the joist hangs here in the connector. So give you an idea, that's kind of how it's set. So I always mark where I measure 16 inches from. I measured it from the outer edge there, and then that helps me lay out the other side here so everything is equidistant. And then I put a level on each joist, make sure that they're perfectly level. So what I'm using to attach these on the ledger side are the 2-inch by 8 exterior screws. Each side gets 4, so each joist on each side gets 8 screws to make the connection. I'm making sure that I'm not connecting over my lags, just in case this thing has to be disconnected from the building. I could pull the floor up and disconnect it so we can move the shed itself. And I'll go through and I'll mark the other section, this other half here, once I go and get some more joists. And that completes the connection. So an important thing to note at this stage, or if you're building a deck or anything, is be mindful of the material that's going to go on top of it. What I like to try to do is use common sizes. So in order to not have to cut each one of these joists, I made sure that it was 8 feet from the inside of this ledger board to the inside of the outer ledger board. And then that'll also ensure that I can attach my plywood or decking floor accordingly. So always try to be mindful of your common board sizes. This is another shot of the inside of how the center post is set up here. And here's the exterior post here. So let's keep going on these joists. Alright, so give you an idea of how I set these joist hangers. If you're only one person out here, you always want to try to make everything a little bit easier on yourself. I square them up, get them in good shape. Take a piece of scrap, I set them in here like this, just to kind of give you an idea. Pull that back, right that. So this is how the joist is going to be simulated. Now notice, there's a space up here. So, I've seen a lot of people come in and they set their hanger up here. Well, they come back and they drop in their joist, and a joist is way higher than the ledger. So what you want to do is get that down like that. So I use a piece of scrap. Come in. Like that. So now I have a nice flush space here, and you can obviously get your level and make sure that you're square. So that's how I get my first initial hanger set. Okay, now that you got both joists in there, you're ready to start hanging them. Drop that in. Drop it in on the other side. Ready to go. So there's the next joist there. There's Jax. Jax, you helping out? You good boy? So now you can start attaching the screws into the joist system. Okay, here's what you should have when you're all done. A nice joisted floor system ready to go for your sheathing, your plywood sheathing, or your decking material. This is very sturdy, and just to reiterate, these are joists set at 16 inches on center, and then to make up the difference here, I just added an extra joist in here since the span was a little bit wide. So this is the completed product, and I'll give you a nice walk around here. All the joists have 8 screws per hanger side. Very strong and sturdy. Concrete's nice and cured. And now you can safely add your decking or your sheathing. One thing to note with this type of construction is if you're going to go for a span wider than 9 feet, don't use a 2x6, use a 2x8, etc. So you're going to want to take a look at a load calculator to make sure that you have the correct joist size for your span. If you were to also say you wanted to build a deck that was 16 foot wide, this same type of construction will work using 2x6s, but you'd have to basically create a support ledger in the middle of your decking system every 8 feet with concreted posts in the ground. But here's a good look of what it's supposed to look like when it's done. And as always, guys, remember, if you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them down below. Check out my little website that I started to make called thebackyardbuilder.com for build pictures and kind of close-ups of this project and other projects that I'm doing. And remember to subscribe and thumbs up, and I will get you on the next video. Later.